Okay, it says that we're recording. And Evelyn, I'll just turn it over to you. You go ahead and just get us started here. Finance for startups. I can't wait.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Evelyn. Can I share my screen so I can let's see. I don't see an option to share my screen.
So if you scroll down to the bottom, I believe there's that green
Yeah.
arrow that says share screen.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see it. Okay, when I'm ready.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay, great.
Evelyn. I'm a CPA, and I've been doing this for a long time. Let me see, over 20 years now. It's hard to believe. It was I was a bookkeeper right in college, and that's how I graduated from college, and I just love this field. Um, I went on get my accounting, and then I um, I just decided I was going to go into business for myself after working in the field for a while. So I love working here. I love what I do. If you have any questions, just let me know. And today I'm going to talk about understanding your financial model, your cost structure, and your revenue streams. So by the end of the session, what I'm hoping is that you will understand how to start thinking about your financial model. Obviously, I can't go into details because each business is individual. So that has to be customized to you, but at least you will have a framework to start thinking about what your financial model is. And also I will hope you start thinking about creating disciplines to grow a successful business. So before I start, let me do some definitions. What is a financial model?
Can I ask really quick, Evelyn? I'm
Sure.
not seeing your screen yet.
Okay.
Did you share it? I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
we see it if it's there. And I apologize for interrupting. Ah, here we go. Here we go.
Okay, you can see that now.
It looks like it's loading, so I'll let you know just as soon. Here we go. Yes, now I can see it's an Excel spreadsheet of definitions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So
great.
financial models is a set of relationships that predict how your business reacts when circumstances change. We know that things change all the time. You look at where we are today, you just never know what could happen. And when an event happens, then you need to be able to know how to respond. And basically, if you have a financial model, it's easier for you to plug in your numbers and say, okay, if this happens, then this will happen. So this is the role financial models play for us. It's just a way of simulating, your best case and worst case and helping you plan so you're more confident as you move forward. And the other thing we're talking about is your cost structure. It's just the nature of cost in your business. How much of it is fixed? How much of it is variable? That's called your cost structure. And your revenue streams is how you make money in your business. So these are the things we'll be focusing on. So we'll start with your revenue streams. Now, everybody who has a business knows that you really can't have a business without revenue. So your revenue basically is your top line. If you have an income statement, that's your top line income. And you should have a model for calculating revenue. So how do you calculate revenue? Your revenue is simply a sum of your sales pipeline times your conversion equals your acquired customers. So what is a sales pipeline? So for example, if you're consulting business, a sales pipeline will be the number of prospects you have in your pipeline. You might get that through cold calling, you might get that through advertising, whatever it is. You have some kind of pipeline that people are trying to contact you to get your services. So you should have a pipeline. Now, that's a function of your marketing system. If you don't have a pipeline, then it's going to be really hard for you to predict revenue, because if there's no revenue, if people can't see you, then there's not going to be much revenue. Your revenue will be very sporadic. So your sales pipeline times your conversion rate is your acquired customers. And then you take your existing customers times your retention rate, which would be your recurring customers. And then your total number of customers will be your acquired customers plus your recurring customers. And then when you take the total customers times average sales times number of repeat sales per customer, you get your total revenue. Since this is a small group, if you have any questions, I would appreciate if you just ask the questions, either through text. It just feels like I'm talking like right into my computer. It feels so weird, but but I know you guys are there. So in other words, for you to have a steady stream of revenue, you have to have those things in place and those things and function happening. So let's take a look at your customer acquisition system. Here's an example. So let's say your sales pipeline is maybe you might have online ads, you might have cold calling, you might have, anything you do at any point in time, maybe 50 people of that or 20 people or however many people respond. That is your pipeline. Those are prospects who are waiting to be contacted by you. So in other words, you put out some kind of advertising, some kind of marketing, they've expressed some interest, so you have to follow up and convert them to your customers. So obviously not everybody who's down your pipeline is going to convert. So you need to know what your conversion rate is. So if 10 people are contacting you out of those 10, how many of them do you convert? Do you convert one? Do you convert two? If you convert one, that's a 10%. If you convert two, that's 20%. So those are the things, those are functions that you need to know, because here's the reason you need to know them. The reason you need to know them for one is because it helps you know where you need training. If you're only converting 1 in 10 people, but your industry is doing like 5 in 10, then you know you need training and you need to improve your marketing skills to learn how to convert if that's your problem. If your problem is just filling up the sales pipeline and you're not having enough people in that pipeline, then obviously you need training on how to market your business to bring people down the pipeline, because those are two different things and those are two different trainings. Because when you know where you're faltering, you know where to ask for help. The problem is most business owners, they go pay for things that they don't even have problems in, because they don't even know where the problem is. They just know things are not working and they're hoping if they throw money at a situation, it should fix it. But that's not really the case. The case is, first of all, you need to figure out what the problem is. No matter how much you pay somebody, nobody is going to know what the problem is better than you. And if you don't spend the time, even if you consult with somebody else to figure out what the problem is, you have to be involved in the process. If you're not involved and you think you just pay someone to figure it out for you, it's just not going to happen. You have to be involved and you have to figure it out. So once you know what your pipeline and conversion is, then you can figure out what your acquisition rate is. So if you're acquiring 5 customers a month, then your average fees are $500, then you know your new income for that month is going to be $2,500. And in February we can see it's 1,000, in March it's 1,000, because I just kind of made it simple. Then the next thing we need to figure out is recurring customers. No business can be built based on basically having to acquire new customers every time. That's too stressful. You need to have a process of retaining customers. So you have to have repeat business, because repeat business is really the cream of the crop of your business, because the acquisition process could be slow, it could be, things could affect it, but if you're retaining your customers, that really helps you out a lot. So the higher retention rate, so with each new customer you're acquiring, you're only growing your revenue, but if each time you have to start from scratch getting new customers, then you're stuck, because you're always in the process of restarting your business again and again, and you can't really grow. So if you have a retention rate, to figure out what your recurring revenue is you take the number of existing customers, multiply by your retention rate, and then multiply by your average fees. So in this case, we see we have 25 customers, retention rate is 95%. So we might lose 1 customer a month. It might not be, but it's easy. It's better to predict it, because sometimes things just don't work out. So when you take 24 customers times 500, you get 11,875. And that's the same thing that's done in February and March. Once you figure that out, you know your total number of customers you have, which is your customer you acquire for the month, plus your retention. That'll be a number of customers, and then your new revenue plus your recurring revenue equals your total revenue. Are there any questions so far? No? No questions? Everything sounds, is there?
So far, sounds good to me. Makes sense.
Okay. All right. So that's the basis of revenue. So those are the things you need to make sure you have in place for revenue. And that's the big thing is planning the revenue of your business, especially in times like this where, trying to figure out, you might have to try and figure out how to pivot your business, because basically maybe things weren't working the way they were working before. But when you know that's the equation to get your revenue, then it's easier for you to start looking, okay, where do I need to focus on? What do I need to work on? What do I need to do differently? Or how can I pivot? And how do I reach those people I need to get to see my products? So once you have your revenue equation going, and I did not do a full blast. This is just a very simple model. I didn't do a full blast model that will have different functions. So I picked 2 of the biggest costs, which is labor and supplies. So basically, once you have your revenue, your cost should be a function of the amount of work you're planning to do. And this takes a lot of discipline, because what happens is sometimes things are on sale and business owners say, oh, this is a time to stock up. But, well, maybe not, because maybe it's not in the plan for you. And basically by spending all that extra money, you're holding up your cash in a way that is going to not do well for you in the long run. So here, this is the number of customers we planned from our revenue prediction. We planned that's how much you'll have. So to figure out how much labor you need, to serve each customer, you need 5 hours. Well, if it takes you 5 hours to figure out to reach each customer, then your labor hours needed will be 30 times 5. So that's how many hours you need to cover. And then if average employee works 40 hours a week, you need about you need 4 employees per week. Well, so each employee takes 5 hours a month. So you need, so you kind of have to calculate, if one employee works about 40 hours a month, I calculate this person on a part-time basis. So you need 4 employees a month. And then if the rate per employee is $12 and you need 150 hours, so what your labor cost should be 150 times 12. So when you project this way, what happens is if your labor cost is more than what the average should be served a customer, you might want to look at where your bottleneck is. So maybe your employees, maybe a customer should take 5 hours, but you have an employee that's taking 8 hours. These are things you want to track and you want to look at and say, why are you taking 8 hours? Maybe that employee needs to go for some kind of training. You need to go for some operational training, process training, look at your processes again. So this is where you know how because that's what the forecasting does for you. It helps you figure out, okay, what in my business is not working the way I think it should work? And why is it not doing that? This is the area, once you figure that that's your problem, now this is where you start bringing in consultants and talking to people. Or maybe other people in your industry like, hey, I know I've done this work before. I've been in this business for so long. I know this is what should take. This employee's taking this much. Like, what are your experiences are? What are some apps? What are some tools you've used to help you increase efficiency? So this is where you want to start doing your research, because it's not working the way it should. But, again, I come back to this again because I see it so many times is what people do is they go solving problems they don't even have, costing them money that is really not going to give them the benefit they need to see. And that a lot of money business owners spend is on problems they're not even facing because they don't even know what the problem is. And so that's how you compute labor. And obviously, this is a very, very simple model. Some businesses are a little bit more complex because they have different products and different things, and each product has its own different uniqueness, but I made this as simple as possible just to illustrate my point. And then for supplies, which is another big expense, is supplies. It could be supplies, but inventory, it could be anything. So the number of customers you have is, this is the same from we predicted this in the revenue model. We have 30, 28, 29. And then, so basically for each, at that point we budgeted that each customer probably takes about $30 of supplies. Maybe it might be printing papers, maybe, just whatever, depending on what the product or the service is. So we know to serve each customer, we need about $30 worth of supplies. So the supplies I would need to serve them is 900. And at the same time, you don't want to be just at 100% because, there might be a shortage. You want to have some in hand just in case, things don't work the way you have. So you have to figure out how much extra you want. So you don't want the exact what you need. So here you can say, okay, my supplies I need is 900. I might want to put 10% more to cover up any shortages or overages that I might have serving my customers. And so you put that there, and so your total supplies needed will be the 990, which is the 900 plus 90. So that's what you want, not the exact what you need, but you need like a buffer, which is the 90 added to the 900. So if you already have 60, if you already have some supplies in stock, you have to subtract that. And then what you need to buy is difference between what you need and what you already have in stock. And this is where some other places where I see problems, because a lot of business owners are really bad at keeping inventory of what they actually really have. So because they don't know what they have, they always overspend. This is a very big area of spending because there are two things that catch entrepreneurs here. The first one is, oh, things are on sale. I better stock up. Bad. And I'll tell you why that's bad, because if it's not part of your original plan, what it's going to do, it's going to eat up cash and hold up your cash. And when better opportunities come around, or you might not even be able to meet your bills just because you're stocking up on stuff that doesn't sell. So if you're looking at that, you might want to look at the whole picture and see, okay, here's my revenue equation. If I'm going to bulk up on this, is there any way I can increase my pipeline? Is there any way I can increase my conversion or whatever, by maybe by offering a special to sell this pretty quickly. So this thing is not just holding up my cash, but I'm turning into cash right away. But a lot of times people just go and buy all the stuff and sell, but they're not really thinking. So in other words, they might be profit rich, but they're very asset poor. And I see a lot of profit rich but asset poor businesses because they just don't know how to manage the assets. They're very, very free in how they manage assets. And so because they don't have cash on hand, or they don't have enough asset producing revenue producing assets, any little thing that happens really makes their business falter. So that's a very, very, very big thing for small businesses, is watching that, being disciplined. I can't emphasize the importance of having discipline, because everybody around you might be doing something. It doesn't mean it is right. If you have a plan, unless you see a reason to tweak your plan that is appropriate to you, keep to your plan. Let everybody else do whatever they're doing, but you do what you said you're going to do, because that's how every business who has been successful, that's how they've made it. Little by little, discipline, I don't care. I know people who make $1 million, in revenue, 6, 7, 7 figures, but yeah, the bottom line is horrible. They have no cash. They have nothing. They're broke. You don't want to be that. You'd rather be the person that keeps more of the income you're making, because you can look like you're rich, but you're really, really poor. And you have some people that look like they have nothing, but they have a lot, but they're just not showing it. They're just very disciplined in the way they behave and carry themselves, that it looks like they really have nothing, but really you'd be surprised when you look at them. They have a lot more than people who are flashing, who look like they have a whole lot more. And I can't emphasize the importance of discipline when you're running a business. The real hard part of running a business is boring. And if you're not willing to do the boring stuff, then you're not going to get to the wealth. And when someone comes to you with a flashy idea, with a fancy idea, with, I got this really exciting thing, that's another word for, I got this really thing that is going to make you broke, because the exciting things make you broke, and the boring things are really what build your wealth. And so you got to look into the details and the boring details of how to grow your business. So let's put this together. So here is from the revenue projections. You can see I have my revenue for January, February, March. I have my supplies, which is what I predicted. I have my labor costs, so I can see my net income. But then again, we can see, so now I have my model. So now I can do a what if. So I can just say, let me dream, what if I can increase my sales pipeline to 5,000? Let me make this. I can see my revenue for that month will be 250,000. It's going to affect every other figure, because every figure is based on this revenue. So once I do that, I can see my supplies would grow to 17,265. I have my labor cost of 31,500, and my net income is 213,110 from the previous month. Way more increase. I was looking at about 20 something thousand before. I can see I'm increasing like 10 times more. So you can play around and do what if, because here's the thing: if you can see something, the likelihood of you achieving it is much higher than when you can't see it. Because it's so amazing. Our mind's always playing tricks on us. It always makes us believe things are worse than they are, or things are better than they are. That's why you need facts, because facts are the facts. When you have things on paper and you write them and you start looking at them, it gives you perspective as far as how to think better, how not to think based on your emotions. You can put that to the side and actually do what needs to be done to move forward. And that's where financial modeling really helps you, is basically it helps you, one, plan. And in times like this, so let's say you're trying to figure out, okay, things are really bad. How bad can it be? Maybe I might not even have maybe my sales pipeline might only be 5, I'm able to reach only 5 people. We can see that in January we have no income. We can see how it affects everything else. You know, we can see that our labor cost only needs to be about 1,500. So what do we do to keep it at 1,500? How much hours do we need? We can compute backwards. So we can go back to the labor tab and we can see like, oh, I only need 125 hours of labor. Well, if I need 125 hours, maybe I need to let one person go or something. You know, that helps us plan as far as, okay, what do I do now if things are going, if I see things getting better, I see things getting worse. And then I can look at a model and be like, okay, you know what, things are not really as bad as I thought it was, or maybe things are going to be bad, so maybe I really need to really buckle up and really make some hard changes. You know, I mean, it's just life. Sometimes things are going to be bad and sometimes things are going to be good, and sometimes you need to make those hard choices. And that's all part of being disciplined and you know, just thinking forward rather than just being fearful and emotional. You know, just use concrete numbers and modeling and see, okay, where would I fall if this happens or that happens, or what can I do differently? If the worst happened, even if the worst happened, then what? I mean, you shouldn't be afraid of going to the worst case scenario. I know a lot of people run away from it, but you have to look at that hard and say, what if this happens? What is my backup? What will I do differently? Because if you're afraid to look at it, what happens is when it comes, you just hide like a mouse rather than facing it. But when you've thought about it and you've thought about how do I handle it in the back end, it becomes easier for you to face it and just, you know, do what you need to do. I mean, sometimes you have to make those hard choices as a business owner. So that is, the summary is there are 2 systems within the revenue model. There's the acquisition model, there's a retention model. Basically, your revenue is a function of how well you can acquire customers and how well you can keep them. And your expenses are a function of your revenue and how much work, because your revenue determines how much work needs to be done. And you should have a system in place where you know what it takes to serve each customer. You need to know, okay, based on this job, it's going to take me 5 hours and this much supplies. It's going to take me this or this much. And you need to be able to put that in an equation model so you can play around with it to see what happens when different things happen to in your business. I was hoping there will be more questions, but that's basically what I had. I was hoping for more of a conversation, but because I just went through it all, you know, that's basically it. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. This is the scenarios that you played out were so realistic and resonated so well with me when you're talking about acquisitions and retention. Is this a spreadsheet that you would be willing to share with the group? Because it's a smart sheet, right? The cells are connected to each other when you change something.
Yeah, but it might not, because it might not be related. It's very simple. I can share it, but it's a very, very simple model. So there might be something a little bit more complex, but at least it's a way to start thinking about it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that so much. Thank you. And please, if anyone has any questions, or if you'd like to just, you know, hop on your video cam here and engage with us, we'd love to hear from you. This is your opportunity if you know, have a specific question that you'd like to be answered. So I'll just give a couple minutes for folks if they want to chat something in.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, like, okay, so once you understand this, imagine if you were going to a bank and you needed a loan. Imagine if you could tell him, this is exactly what I plan to do. Imagine, this is my revenue model, this is my acquisition, this is my sales pipeline, this is how much work I take to this. You're more likely to be listened to, because the bank is going to look at you and be like, she or he really knows what he's talking about. Versus like, what is your, I don't know. What is your cost of, I don't know. It's like, no, no, thank you. So when you understand your revenue model, your financial model really well, it just becomes so much easier to talk about it and get what you need to finance your business.
Are there any other stories or scenarios that you could share? I mean, obviously being sensitive to confidentiality, but you see people make common mistakes. So if we could, you know, just hear about what to look out for, maybe?
The biggest one is basically just getting stuff you don't really need. It doesn't really solve any problem. That's the biggest thing, because a salesman comes, sounds really flashy and dashy and promises this one thing is going to solve all your problems, and then you get it, and then you don't use it. I mean, it's the same thing like, you know, you listen to all these fitness commercials and you're like, I need to have the machine, and you buy the machine, and what does it do? You hang clothes in it. Same scenario, just people do the same thing in their business. They just buy solutions because the reason, I'll tell you, the reason they don't need it because they're not there yet. At every stage in your business, you need very different things in your business. So for example, if you have an acquisition problem, buying a retention problem is not going to really help you because that's not really where you are. First, you have to acquire the customers, you know. If you have a retention problem, you buy an acquisition problem, then it's not really going to help you. Or if you have an operational problem where your workforce is not really completing the work in a timely manner, then obviously you need to go to some kind of systems workshop, you know, not sales rush, because that's not your problem. You might have all those problems, but at any one point in time, to be really successful, you have to choose the one that's biggest and tackle it, because you can't tackle everything at the same time. So the biggest thing is, a lot of times people see like, oh, I'm going to make this much revenue and this. If I do this and do this, I will make this much revenue. What they're not looking at is the whole picture. Okay, how is this going to affect your cash? You know, or how is this going to affect, you know, the bottom line might be okay, but there's all those other things in the future you don't see that actually comes back to bite you. You're spending cash now, but in the future you need cash to pay your employers. But then because it's held up in supplies of inventory, you don't have that money, and then it's that vicious cycle. It's that vicious cycle. And I do have an Excel file which I can also share when I can show you that once you go into debt to a certain point, that and your business keeps operating a certain way, like you just keep going, it's like you just keep going deeper into it. Like there's just no way out. It's just, you're just in it. And it's just because at that point you're in to, you know, you're way in. So, you know, making those kind of choice. And a lot of it is just mindset thinking. It's just the way you think, you know, people think in such a way where they have to have it now. You know, it sounds good. And yes, I'm going to get it now, but it doesn't work that way. Building successful business takes a lot of discipline, which means you're not looking at what everybody's doing. Because running business is like an exam hall. You know, everybody is given the same, you know, given the time, you have a piece, you complete your exam. If you're too busy looking at what A is doing and what B is doing and what C is doing, you're not doing your work. You're too busy trying to copy from A, B, and C. And then say, hey, time is up. I'm like, hey, I haven't finished my questions. I'm like, no. You were too busy watching A, B, and C. That's why you didn't do your work. You need to mind your business and get what you need done. And if you need help, ask for the help you need. But here's the thing, if you don't do your work in your business, then you cannot get the help you need. And asking for general help, like, hey, I'm in trouble, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to help you. You know, how can I help you? Like, where exactly are you in trouble? Right. So that's why reading, expanding your mind, knowing where you are in trouble so you can ask for help, that's how you get the help you need.
Right. And you have to really have that solid understanding to be able to ask for help and identify problems to begin with. Another thing, when you talk about buying flashy things or flashy apps, I also think about the slow bleed of the small apps and widgets that, you know, you purchase one here, one there, and before you know it, it costs as much as that big flashy thing and you think it's going to solve the problem, and it doesn't. Just like that gym membership, instead of the treadmill, you think, oh, the membership is cheaper. You know, we really need to have that plan and stay focused. I appreciate that so much.
Yes.
And the sale purchases too. I feel so guilty of this. Oh, it's on sale, I have to buy it. I have to buy it now because it makes sense, when really it was not in the plan to begin with. What am I doing? I'm getting off the rails.
Exactly. Remember, it's only a sale if you already plan to buy it. Because if you didn't plan to buy it, you're spending money you intend to spend in the first place. It's only a sale if you intended to buy it. So.
Evelyn, I feel so much wiser just from this last 30 minutes. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions or if they want to jump in on our conversation here. I'm not seeing any videos in the chat here. But I guess that's a great opportunity for us to plug the other sessions in the series, because that's what this is all about, right? We've built this foundation, and now we're going to work toward building a business that funds our financial futures, right? So really
Mm-hmm.
digging into those numbers, creating that plan for success, knowing what our current financial position is, knowing where we need to ask for help. So please do, register for those other sessions if you haven't already, or make sure that you get them added to your calendar, and check back with us, because we've got a lot going on, and we're here to support you. So definitely, I appreciate everyone's time for hopping in today. And thank you so much, Evelyn. I appreciate your time. And again, you took something that I don't feel the strongest in, and really made it easy for me to digest. So I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're
Jean.
welcome.
Hey, Jean.
Hi. Hello.
You got any questions, Jean?
Nope, I'm just soaking it all in.
Yeah, well, I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it at least got your mind thinking about maybe some places where you could focus more, or
Yeah. Let me turn my video on. I'm still working full time, but I always have this entrepreneurial spirit. So it's always good to, keep this kind of in the back of the mind to do this in addition to my job that I love.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
It was very good.
Jean and I are going to open a wine bar.
Hey there. Yes, we are.
You are?
We've been talking about it.
You guys, I can't wait to go.
I was wondering if you'd be
Just
on
kidding.
here. No, we haven't.
Yeah, I just hopped on.
We had thought about, ever since I went to that Momentum on Maine, I don't know, when that was, seems like ages ago, I have just wanted to do something, in addition, love my job, but doing something else would be fun.
Yeah, well, good for you, and way to stay inspired, and thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I get so much value out of hearing your guys' stories. It inspires, me too, so I appreciate it. Also, hi, David.
How's it going?
Are you golfing? Are you outside?
No, I'm just outside. I just came out to my back patio here. So,
nice.
Evelyn, I got a quick question for you. I kind of hopped on a little bit late, so I missed your background and everything. But I'm like Jean, where I'm in another profession and always kind of sniffing around at opportunities, entrepreneurial stuff. At what point, and I kind of asked a similar thing on the last one, but at what point do you think if this isn't your background, the financial, analysis side, do you need to bring in a professional to kind of help you with this when you're on your entrepreneurial adventure?
Well, I would recommend when you start, you sit down and have a consultation. So basically, how do I set things up so I'm on the right footing? And then when it's set up for you, if this is not your background, when it's set up for you, then they can show you, this is how you maintain on your own. And then when it becomes too much for you at that point to maintain on your own, then that's when you should bring people to delegate the task to somebody else. But I would say consulting at every phase is definitely worth it. It's better to consult and know you're doing it right than try to do it on your own and it's all messed up. And then someone you have to spend more money trying to fix it. If you're not a plumber, you should be fixing your toilet, right? So you should consult with someone to fix it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good. Because Dave and I've talked about, businesses and things, and that was a good question, because, what point do you do that so that, he and I or whomever else we go into partnership, we have all of our special, characteristics and talents. And this number thing was very interesting, Evelyn. I liked how it was presented, but but it's important. You got to have this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's a really great point, Jean, that we always want people to recognize is, you're the expert at the thing that you're the expert in. Let us know our strengths and our weaknesses and ask for help when we need it. So as Evelyn said, as soon as it gets to be more than you feel comfortable with is when you should be looking for someone else to make sure that you're on the right track. So that's great. And building a team around those strengths and weaknesses. You guys are smart.
And I think, and I still believe after this new norm and we get to the other side of things, there's, you know, my brain has been thinking of business, but this is the time to really, I think, invent and just really look at starting something. And we have the time right now to really tweak it and see what, you know, see what that is, what the business plan is. Because when this is done and it's on the other side, I think there's going to be a lot of great opportunity. Why not look at it now?
What I recommend for you is like have all your ideas like in an Excel file, you know, and kind of do projections for each of them, which one will be most profitable for you, because all of them will have different, you know, and then examine which ones you want to pursue, because obviously you can't pursue all of them, but you can evaluate all of them and see which one holds the most weight, or which one has the most potential. And that's the one you should probably go for, unless your passion just wasn't in it. Then if your heart is not in something, you're not going to put your heart into it regardless. So, I mean, you have to at least like what you're doing. I don't believe in like follow your passion, but you have to at least like what you're doing, because if not, your heart would not be in it.
Right.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you all. And I will follow up with an evaluation. So please do share your feedback so that we can always, you know, work to provide the content that you're looking for and make our sessions better. And I'll also follow up with the spreadsheet so that everyone can have hands on that. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next session. When's it going to be? Let me look at my calendar. May 21st, guys.
21st, okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Same place, same time. See you there, okay?
Thanks, everyone.
All right, then.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.